Hello, my name is Oliver and I'm a trans guy who makes videos about LGBTQIA plus people where they get to talk about anything that they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I recently came home from a trip through Malaysia and Singapore, and in Kuala Lumpur I met up with Eitan. Since it's not safe for him to be out as a trans man, he has chosen to stay anonymous in this video.
My name is Eitan. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I identify as a transmasculine, he, him.
Before he started thinking about his gender identity, he discovered that he liked girls.
I've liked girls at a really young age, but I didn't really get to talk about this, except I only talked about it with my sister when I was young. 17 years old is when I started to come to terms of transgender, and especially after watching Boys Don't Cry. And that's when I thought, hey, this is how I can resonate with. Brendan Tino from the film. I could resonate with him because he was trying to find some place that he can be himself and be accepted by everyone as a transgender man, but he was killed in the end, and I felt so sorry for him.
It was a bit difficult for people around him to accept his gender identity.
Just because my relatives knew me as she and my dead name as a kid. And then when I cut my hair short and started doing boys things when I was in Australia, everything changed. And they felt distant ever since because I kept cutting my hair even shorter and shorter. And they weren't having any of it. Except that my mom and my dad and my sister, they eventually grew to accept me little by little.
He was then part of a church that did not accept this at all.
They would tell me things like, oh yeah, you should go back to where God has created you. Oh yeah, God only created men and women. A lot of fundamentalists in the previous church I went to, in a charismatic Pentecostal church, they tell me those things when I came out to them. And I even went to a Christian school in Selangor, Malaysia. And the pastor from the school introduced me to a conversion therapy. And I didn't like it, my counseling sessions there. And the moment when I came out as transgender, the counseling pastor said to me, how do you want us to help you if you have made that decision yourself? I didn't answer and I just left. That's when I came to terms when I started to identify as a transmasculine. After a lot of self-navigating, it was not because I'm scorned with men or whatsoever. I'd known that when I was 8 years old that I wanted to be trans. I'm not being trans for a trend, not a transgender or anything. I want to be myself. That's why I identify as a transmasculine.
He eventually left that church.
I had my final straw when the senior pastor of that church preached about having sudden depression, anxiety, thoughts are not you, and suicidal thoughts are signs of the demonic influence. That was my last straw because I realized that I had signs of anxiety and depression when I was in my early 20s. And not everyone in the Pentecostal church did understand me. I tried prayer. I've tried occupying myself with a new hobby, but it didn't work. And I'm glad I'm placed with a better therapist right now. And that Muay Thai helps me a lot, despite the disapproval from the church. I chose to leave because of that sermon. And apart from that, it doesn't feel like a true church. It's just like a concert or like a seminar. They didn't teach you how to read the Bible properly. They don't really teach you how to rely on Jesus rather than to rely on the pastor's sermon, saying like, oh yeah, this pastor's sermon is good, that pastor's sermon is good, you know. There's no such thing as a perfect church or a pastor, right? That's the reason why I left the church.
Now he's found a new church where he feels more at home.
I'm in an Anglican church. It's much better, but I just have to be stealth. I couldn't be so public and open with my gender identity, so I have to be stealth about it so far. I like that church a lot because it teaches me how to read the Bible and even to rely on Jesus properly as well. After years of spiritual harm, not just from my friend who was spiritually and psychologically abusive, but also from the mega church that I was attending. And I'm joining a transgender Christian community on Discord, and it's helping me a lot. And it's also helping me to heal from my spiritual harm, religious trauma, and ostracism as a transgender man.
Therapy has also helped him a lot.
Therapy has helped me identify how hard it was for me to get over the past because of my trauma, and why I make excuses because of my trauma. And it helps me to think rationally and regulate my emotions. And therapy has also helped me in a way to regard other people as humans instead of idealizing them to a certain extent. My therapist taught me that everyone is a human. Sometimes people will disappoint you. And much to my Christian faith, he did teach me to rely on the Bible and rely on Jesus only, instead of just the pastor, because I have just recently opened up to him about the mega church as well.
So what is it like for Eitan to be a trans guy in Malaysia?
Some people on the street, so some people online, they might keep asking questions like, are you a boy or a girl? But I chose not to answer it. I'm not hiding anything, I'm just trying to set a boundary, because I'm also a human being as well. Whenever they call me she, I tell them I'm a he, and then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. They'll say stuff like that. Some people call me leng chai, means handsome in Cantonese, and that made me feel validated. There can be a mixture of validation and invalidation outside the streets. So you just have to be stealth, just like how I was in the Anglican church.
Eitan also lives with autism and ADHD.
I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD when I was only 21. I only had the symptoms, but I was left undiagnosed when I was a kid, because my mother didn't accept that I'm a special kid. She believed that I could be normal as a lot of those kids. When I couldn't get on with friends, I was much more of the socially distant, aloof type as a kid. I went to a special school when I was 7. Actually, I went to speech therapy for 2 years with a shadow teacher. She helped me with my math, my reading and writing, and she even taught me how to write and express myself, even though it was quite hard. When I was a kid, I was taught to be expressionless because my grandfather thinks that expressing emotions makes you weak, and I would disagree with that kind of teaching, actually. With all due respect to him, I believe that we have a right to express our feelings, talk about what we need and what we want, and we shouldn't be kept silent like that. I'm just trying to make an awareness that your feelings are valid, no matter what you have been through. You don't need anybody else's validations except yourself. It took me 2 years after my grandfather's passing to realize that my emotions are valid, and that even if I'm a neurodivergent, and even if someone doesn't perceive me as so, it's okay. Dealing with these kind of issues as an autistic and ADHD, I may have a lot of stigma. They think that I might be cured, but I have to be honest right here. Symptoms can come back, but it is entirely your decision to control it.
And lastly, here is a message from Eitan to you if you are a queer person living in Malaysia.
To most of the queer and the transgender people here, I have to say that hope will come someday. As long as you stand to what you believe in and stand towards your identity, the truth will set them free, actually. No matter the political and religious persecution you're going through, you have to stand firm in that. This is my encouragement to all the LGBTQ plus people in Malaysia going through. You don't deserve to be blamed for anything just because of their political, religious mistakes. It is entirely their problem, not yours. So stand firm, hope is coming, and I believe that with discipline and perseverance, you get through.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time.